Everybody, and welcome to Mid Suffolk District Council Development Control B. My name's Cathy Guthrie and I'm the chairman today. Excuse me. May I first of all remind you of some domestic arrangements. Please ensure that microphones are muted when you are not speaking, that you do not interrupt the other speaker. Members are reminded not to use the messaging chat function during the meeting unless it is to report a pecuniary, non-pecuniary interest or to notify the chair that you wish to make a proposal. Members are reminded they should not have alternative communication lines open, i.e. other Skype chats, and that if you are contacted by a third party during an application, you should bring this to the legal advisor's attention. That if you are attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Additionally, you will be invited to speak and ask questions by myself. Please await your turn. We will not be using the hands up function except for declarations of interest, site visits request, declarations of lobbying and questions for clarity. If you are experiencing poor connection issues in the first instance, please turn off your camera. If this does not work, please turn off all incoming video. These options are under the three dots in the main information bar. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be recorded except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you will be deemed by the council to have consented to being recorded. By entering this meeting as a speaker, you are also consenting to be recorded by the council and for possible use of those sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. The council, members of the public and press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded. And before I go to the introductions, for members, we will do for the debate area, the first round will be A to Z, and then as we move forward, we can possibly use the hands up if I can keep up with you. So, introductions. Ian Dupre is our legal advisor. Robert Carmichael is our governance officer. Alex Scott is a case officer. Area planning manager, John Pateman G. We also have Gemma, who will be presenting one of the cases. We also have Philip Isbell, who's also here to assist. And we also have as a ward member as well as a committee member, Councillor Stringer. So can we move to the agenda, please? I will now ask the governance officer to roll call for the members present.
Just turn my video on as well. Apologies, there was a slight error there in what I'd written in your order of proceedings. Councillor String here is just here as a normal member and not as a ward member this morning. So the ward members we've got are councillors, Councillor Geek and Councillor Mansell and Councillor Field. So apologies, Chair.
I do apologise. I do apologise to them because I am reading from a crib sheet and I should have known that because I welcomed them earlier. I apologise. Thank you.
So if members could please respond with present. So Councillor James Carston.
Present.
Councillor Peter Gould.
Present.
Councillor Cathy Guthrie.
Present.
Councillor Barry Humphreys.
Present.
Councillor Andrew Mellon.
Present.
Councillor Mike Norris.
Present.
Councillor Andrew Stringer.
Present.
And Councillor Roland Warboys.
Present.
Thank you, Chair. We are all present.
To receive declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests by members, are there any to declare? Please use the hands up function. There are none to declare. Declarations of lobbying. Are there any to declare? And please use the hands up function. Again, none. Declarations of personal site visits. And anything to declare, again, please use the hands up function. Thank you. The schedule of applications will be as the order that they are in the papers. So we will be dealing with DC 20-01677, land to the west, former bacon factory, Elmswell first, followed by DC 20-01175, land adjacent Port 1 Business Park, and then finally DC 20-03026, the Crest Nicholson site, land adjacent to Weatherden Road. And just to remind those people who are visiting the meeting today, if they want to continue to listen, that will be fine, but the second one will probably be after an hour. But if you do want to just leave for the moment, please leave the applications running so that you can join us later, but you're very welcome to stay. So without further ado, can we move on?
I'm very sorry, Chair. We've missed out the minutes.
Oh, I do beg your pardon. Yes, but I don't know why I've done that. I'm not really concentrating, am I? Sorry, I apologise. The minutes of the meeting. Sorry, are there any points regarding to the accuracy of the minutes? Councillor Mellon, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to say that I believe I declared I'd made a site visit to Mendlesham, and that didn't get recorded in the minutes.
Can we amend
Apologies for that,
please?
Councillor. Yep, I can put that in.
So can I have a proposer and a seconder for the minutes with that amendment, please?
Happy to propose, Chair. Councillor Mellon.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Caston, are you seconding that?
Happy to second. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. So Robert, if you can now take a roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. So if members could please respond with for, against or abstain. So Councillor James Carston.
For.
Councillor Peter Gould.
For.
Councillor Cathy Guthrie.
For.
Councillor Barry Humphreys.
For.
Councillor Andrew Mellon.
For.
Councillor Mike Norris.
For.
Councillor Andrew Stringer.
For.
And Councillor Roland Warboys.
For.
Thank you, Chair. That is carried.
Thank you. And as soon as it's practicable, they will be signed. Can you now reduce your hands if you've got hands up at the moment, please? Thank you. To receive notification of petitions in accordance with the Council Petition Scheme.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. And we've done the schedule of applications, so I do apologise for that. So now I'll ask Daniel Cameron to introduce the first application, please. Thank you very much.
Chairman, can I just say a couple of words before Dan presents the application?
You can indeed. Please do.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just by way of introductory comment here, I think it's important that I just put a couple of things before members' consideration this morning before debate proceeds. And the first point is your officers have obtained Council's opinion on this application, the officers' report on the planning merits and the risk issues that are involved here. Now, that advice is legally privileged and isn't being shared with committee, as it contains advice both on the application in hand and on the conduct of the appeal presently with the planning inspectorate. So with that in mind, the risk report does refer to legal advice, but is, you'll understand, framed quite carefully and only with relevance to the application before committee today. So it's important, secondly, to bear in mind that this application needs to be determined on its own planning merits, but it is foreseeable that the consideration of this application by this committee may form part of the evidence and case which gets argued and presented at that appeal. The third point is your officers will wish to ensure that at no point during the conduct of today's meeting is the defence of that appeal undermined or compromised by the rehearsal of issues on that appeal proposal. Inevitably, I'd ask you to bear in mind that may mean that the advice given by your officers is framed carefully to safeguard that defence as need be, and members are asked just to bear that in mind when asking questions of officers and in debate. And I think that's all I want to say at this point, Chairman, but obviously happy to answer questions as need be, and I'll hand over to Dan.
Thank you for that, Philip. Dan, if you'd like to present the case.
Thank you, Chair. You're able to see the PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, I can. I hope others can too. Thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so this is application DC 20-01677. It's an outline application for the erection of 65 residential dwellings. As part of the outline, we're considering access, but all the other reserved matters, the appearance, the layout, the landscaping, and the scale of the site are to be determined under a different application were this outline to be approved. So the application was previously heard on the 5th of August, and at that meeting it was deferred to allow officers time to provide a risk assessment such that members could be aware of the risks of a refusal on this application. And that information is presented in your report, members, pages 17 to 22. We do have a live appeal running on the site from the previous application, that's DC 19-03924. The reason for refusal is provided within the report for you members. Effectively, it is that the site is unallocated and will place additional burden on the infrastructure of Elmswell to cope with particular regard to education provision. Council opinion for the appellants and for the council has been undertaken, and information within that is given for you in the risk assessment, pages 17 to 22, members. With regards to the site, it's outlined on the screen for you here in orange. Members will note a grade 2 listed building some distance to the west. Here's that same map outlined again, site outlined again in orange. We see Elmswell to the east. We have the image of the former bacon factory site, now Taylor Wimpey housing development, and then we have the farm complex to the west, which contains a listed building. If we jump ahead slightly to the plans we have before us, members, these should all be familiar to us from the previous meeting. There would be 2 access points created through to the Taylor Wimpey site for the creation of up to 65 residential units here. The report as presented on pages 23 to 47 of your agenda, members, is as presented at the meeting on the 5th of August, and the recommendation within that report, members, remains the same, such that it is resolved that the recommendation to members is that they resolve to grant approval to the application subject to condition and subject to section 106 as well. And I think it might be useful just quickly to run through the section 106 requirements, but the conditions as well for members are outlined on page 46 and 47 of your agendas. So with regards to the section 106, it's required to secure the delivery of 22 units of affordable housing with mix to be agreed. Obviously, if we still have details on precise numbers to come forward as part of the reserved matters, we want to be in a position where we can agree that 10-year mix on up-to-date information. There'll also be securing education contributions, highways contributions, including monies towards a footway cycle link between Woolpit and Elmswell, a need to undertake travel plan. There'll also be some bus stop improvements near the site, and there'll also be a need to manage and maintain open space within the site. And as part of that, I think it would be prudent to look at what occurs with the land reserved for the link road shown here in this plan in orange between the attenuation basin to the north of the site and the residential development to the south. If we look at what occurred within the Taylor Wimpey site adjacent, that was for the transfer of the land set aside for the link road to the council. And I would think that something similar would occur here. Obviously, what we'd be looking at within the reserve matters is some sort of intermediary measure to lay out that site, transfer it, such that when the neighbourhood plan comes forward and we have further detail on the link road, that land is safeguarded in the council's ownership and can then be drawn down upon to provide said link road. I won't go through the rest of the site for members. As I said before, it should all be familiar, and if any questions arise, we can run through the issues and the relevant slides when we get to them. This slide just shows you the 2 proposed access points in further detail, members. If there is There's nothing else for me to report to members at this point. What I'll do is I'll turn over to members and take any questions on the risk assessment itself.
Thank you for that, Daniel. I think on the recommendations, we do, you've laid it out very clearly for us, but I think the contribution needs for the footway and cycleway needs to be sort of in black and white, that's 55250, as and when we come to debate that further, to be noted. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions for clarity, please? You may use the hands up, but bear with me if I slow down. Right, Councillor Stringer first, then Sarah. Councillor Mansell, can you wait while we just go through the committee members, please? So, Councillor Stringer.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. On page 19 and the penultimate paragraph, it says about the development plan policy CS1, CS2 and H7 are deemed out of date. What the report doesn't go on to say is then what you do with those policies. Do you then basically ignore them, or do you identify their conflict and then balance it out after that?
Chairman, may I chip in on that?
Yes, please do.
So they are development plan policies, so you are required by statute to give them weight. What you will find inspectors and planning authorities do in this situation is to reduce that weight in their consideration. They are still part of the development plan. Statutorily, they are supposed to be the policies that are your starting consideration, but relative to other considerations, their weight is reduced by the degree to which they are inconsistent with the national policy. That's the advice that's given within the NPPF and is traditionally understood. So in this situation, the policies being out of date would mean that you would give greater weight to the presumption in favour of sustainable development, and you would give lesser weight to the development plan policies, acknowledging that they are, for the sake of the record, development plan policies, Chairman.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Councillor Stringer. Has that helped you in your understanding? Rather than debating, does it help you in your understanding?
Yes, it does. So it'd be handy if I'll ask later where it is in the report. But anyway, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stringer. And just before I go to Councillor Mansell, are there any other questions from the committee members? No? Then thank you, Councillor Mansell. Your question, please, for clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It was just something I picked up from what Mr. Cameron said about contributions to improving nearby bus stops. Just to point out, I'd like to know where the nearby bus stops are, because there are no public bus stops in Elmswell north of the railway line. And so I just wondered where nearby bus stops were intended to be.
They would be to the, sorry, Chair. They would be to the south of the railway line. That's come forward as part of our consultation with the Highway Authority, and is set out within the responses within the report there. See if I can find you the direct page. So yeah, so we're looking at pages 28 to 29. Yeah, so it would be as part of bus stop improvements within Elmswell, but it wouldn't be north of the railway line, it would be south of the railway line.
Okay, it's just that it's a bit misleading to say that they're nearby the site, that was all.
Thank you, Councillor Mansell. That's given you the answer there. So we don't have any public speakers, a representative from the parish council or objector. So we can now go straight to the ward members. We have two, and Councillor Sarah Mansell, I have you as the first one up. So if you'd like to make your representation, thank you very much.
Thank you. My views on this application remain unchanged, despite the words of the risk assessment and the legal advice, which I have been informed about from our planning officers. Whatever they and the county council say, it is still fundamentally wrong to be educating the children of Elmswell in a new school built in Woolpit. Here we are in the 21st century when we've all admit that there is a climate emergency. COVID has given the environment a bit of a breather, and we as a council have pledged to promote sustainable travel. That means walking and cycling as opposed to using the private car. If a primary school is nearly 3 miles away, most parents will not be walking or cycling with their children. They will be driving. There has been no change to the nonsensical suggested alternative routes to avoid the congested junction near the church in Elmswell. And before you all start on about electric vehicles, I will admit that they are an improvement, but they are not the panacea. The energy still has to come from somewhere, and maybe that could be from renewable sources, but the materials used in battery technology are far from safe. Over 60% of particulate pollution from vehicles comes from brake and tyre dust and from road surface wear. The use of electric vehicles will make little difference to this, and they will still create traffic jams. This may not be an argument for a Development Control Committee, but the distribution of housing in this part of our district is fundamentally flawed. If you choose to live in one of the largest villages in the county, the largest village in our district, you would expect there to be a primary school within that village to accommodate the children of that village. This is where we need to be heading, to enable as many children as possible to live within walking distance of their primary school. We know that parents do have a choice, but we really hope that in the future it will become the norm for the vast majority of people to walk to school, not be driven 3 miles across a busy junction. We need to be doing so much more to promote this modal shift towards cycling and walking. So maybe we need to consider the introduction of cycle share scheme as part of sustainable travel plans of this and any other development in Elmswell. Yes, I'll admit that some of the funds will go towards a shared cycle and pedestrian path between the two villages, but without any additional way of promoting cycling, this does not cut the biscuit for me. This development does still sit outside of both the existing and the proposed settlement boundary for Elmswell. So we really should only be allowing an exemplary development in terms of its environmental sustainability, and this is not it. This development is one too many for Elmswell and should be refused.
Thank you for that, Councillor. So can we go for hands up if any? Are you happy to take questions now before I ask Councillor Geek?
It doesn't matter, whatever is easier for members, whether it's easier to do us on block or one at a time.
We'll do this one now then, shall we? Councillor, anybody got any questions for Councillor Mansell, please, before we ask Councillor Geek? No? Thank you very much for that. Councillor Geek, if you would like to give us your presentation, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to support Councillor Mansell's statements and add a few points. We have heard that the site is outside the settlement boundary in the emerging joint local plan, and it's not a preferred option in the plan. It will further expand Elmswell to the west, resulting in a major addition to an already significantly expanded settlement, and it imposes further strain on the infrastructure provision, which is already stretched to accommodate the 634 houses in Elmswell with planning permission, both those currently built or soon to start. These extra 65 houses, they're an unacceptable addition to an already overextended village, particularly at a time when the council can demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply. Now, the fact that this site isn't included in the joint local plan land allocations or in the neighbourhood plan, that was a factor that was cited by several members in the debate and the decision in February. There's no difference now to the weighting that should be given to the joint local plan compared to February. But ironically, in a sensible situation where the village could choose which sites to accept to meet its required allocations, it might accept this one in favour of perhaps rejecting the application to develop the field with the wonderful view on the edge of the village near the church. But apparently we aren't in a sensible situation. So all I can really say in frustration is, given where we are, this application is one too far and should be refused. But could we please not get into this situation again? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Geek. Does anyone have any questions for Councillor Geek, please? Thank you very much for that. I don't have any questions there, so we now move into debate, please. And can we start with Councillor Caston, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I have no comments to make at this stage. Thank you.
And Councillor Gould, we're now in debate. Thank you.
Similarly, nothing to say at this point. Thank you.
And Councillor Humphreys?
Madam Chair, thank you. Not too much to say. It's just we talk about the education. Yeah, the education is part of the RDP, so that's been dealt with. It's going to be in Woolpit, not in Elmswell. I mean, that's the decision that's been made, and there is going to be a cycle route. We keep hearing the argument about cars. There are going to be electric cars. In fact, September was the record month for sales of electric cars in the UK, 34,000. So it's going to go up and up and up, and people will choose to use cars, or they choose to cycle, or they choose to walk. It's a choice thing. It's not a reason for stopping anything. So I can't see anything in the report that prevents this. It's a natural place to build, and I think it'd be hard to find a refusal point.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Councillor Mellon.
Thank you, Chair. Not a great deal to say beyond what was discussed at our previous time we looked at this. The legal opinion, I don't know, it seems to sort of hem us in even more in terms of, you know, the actual the scope we have for decision making here. But I do find this point of the educational provision to be absolutely key, that we have development in Elmswell which could be accommodated, and then we have to decide on an application which will take things over and above that, and the answer to it apparently is to bus children to Woolpit, which just seems to be completely incomprehensible to me. So that's the point where I am at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Councillor Norris.
Thank you. I do relate to what the ward members have presented, but I'm struggling to find, and particularly in view of the risk assessment that's been presented to us, I am struggling to find defensible planning reasons to refuse this application. That's all I'd like to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norris. Councillor Walboys.
Yes, I think I was following from Councillor Norris. The comments about the education, every village should really be providing its own primary education, and children should be encouraged to use it. There will be an existing pedestrian route and a cycle route developed as part of this. And it is, to all intents, a greenfield site. But again, I mean, our original discussion was about the scale of the development and the increased burden on the infrastructure in Elmswell, which persists. I've read through the risk assessment, and I think you know, we've been well advised there. But I was a bit concerned about the sort of dismissive and divisive tone of the appeals QC notes, and especially that he's challenging the payments for additional improvements to the infrastructure.
Thank you, Councillor Walboys. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, for me, this is the first time looking at this because I wasn't at the previous committee, I don't think. So, yeah, it's really interesting. There's a number of points in here that actually cause me deep concern, and where we have these sort of broad brushing statements about our policies that on closer inspection actually are found to be incorrect. There is a paragraph in here that states that CS1, for instance, the policy CS1, that we gain our 5-year land supply despite it. Well, CS1, which we all should be very familiar with, is to suggest that we should have the majority of our development in the most sustainable villages and towns. I wouldn't suggest we've hit the 5-year land supply despite that. I would say it's because of CS1, because we've concentrated the development in the most sustainable places, is why we've hit that target. So actually that statement is fundamentally wrong. So I think some of the advice is very questionable. I think that at the core of this issue for this particular settlement is this thing about the education provision. Now, having represented the county council at times, people can disagree with them. And actually, on this case, I fundamentally disagree with them. The fact that an officer of the county council said, well, it'll be OK to bus them to Woolpit, it misses the fundamental first plank of sustainability. When we have tiny little villages with their own primary education provision in our district, our largest one, it should be an absolute benchmark that it has to provide that primary education. So frankly, for me, this application does not wash its face for that infrastructure for education, despite what my county colleagues are saying. And I believe this one is, again, yet another development that's the wrong side of the tracks.
Chairman, can I just chip in, because
sorry, just before you do, Philip, can I just say that I think Councillor Warboy's comment about the legal advice, if Ian could just help me on this, I think was from the appellant's side. Could you clarify that, Ian, please?
I think I'm assuming that Councillor Warboys is referring to the opinion from leading counsel QC, who was instructed for the appellant in the appeal that was the appellant shared with us, because it was of what it said. And I think that, Mr. Isbell, I think that is in the public domain, isn't it? Or at least, yes.
Yeah.
Not only members, it's more or less on our website, isn't it? I think, because it was shared with us openly.
Yes. So, Councillor Warboys, does that clarify it for you that in fact?
Yes, that was what I was referring to. I did assume it was in the public domain.
Yes, but it was from the appellant side, not from the legal advice that Mid Suffolk have had. Just for clarity on that one.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Thank you.
And the appellant, I mean, although we've said our advice is legally privileged, we the officers and our counsel do not necessarily agree with every word of the advice by Mr. Manley QC that the other side showed us.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarity on that, so long as we know where it was coming from, because we've had so much. Now, Philip, if you'd just like to help on Councillor Stringer's point, thank you.
Thank you, yes, Chairman, and much as Ian has said there, they might say that, and I suppose in the Christine Keeler way, well, they would, wouldn't they? That doesn't mean we necessarily agree with their argument. I think, Councillor Stringer, the point about the report is that it's the basket of policies which are not up to date. So the approach, CS1, CS2 and CS and H7 together form the approach to housing provision across the district, and together they are not up to date, and therefore together, despite those policies, the supply of homes does not marry up with the government's policy and is not consistent with it. I don't think that the statement particularly drew out CS1 from that. And if CS1 looks to focus growth in particular settlements, then and within settlements or in the area of settlements, I think one can certainly say that there is an argument to be had that development adjacent to those settlements is not in conflict with them. Either way, the statement made in the report is intended to, as inspectors do time and again in appeal, address the policies as a whole, because that is how they should be applied. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. And so in the first round of debate here, I'd like to make comment. I hear what everybody is saying about the schooling, and I just sort of am a bit saddened about it, because I know that each village would love to have their own school, and it's not always possible. if the county are going to invest in a new school at Woolpit, I can think of nothing better. How exciting to have a new school that will be purpose built, and it will be for those young children of today and tomorrow. And without harking on about it, I can remember when I had containers as schooling, and that was in my age 16. So we didn't, I know that's not primary schools, but I think to have an exciting new school is positive. We've got funding towards this cycle path that we're all talking about. I really think you have to start somewhere. Not all children will be sort of born at once needing to go to a school. There is a school already there. And so I hear what everybody is saying, but I'm still more comfortable with what's on offer here. So that's my comments for this first time round. We are in debate, so we need to come to some sort of conclusion. So if anybody would like to use the hands up function, I'll be happy to try and keep up with you all. Whoops, there we go. There's Councillor Humphreys. Yes, please.
Madam Chair, thank you. We've heard a few points there about the education and the lack of education in Elmswell, and we should have a school in Elmswell. Well, we have a school in Elmswell. It's going to be expanded. So page 39 is quite useful. We'll come to Councillor String as well. Sustainability. I disagree in your opinion on sustainability for Elmswell completely, and that's backed up on page 39 as well. It's range. It's got a railway. It's got good access to roads. It is sustainable. All within 12 minutes of this site. The school side of it talks about provision of education facilities, and it talks about the growth within Elmswell and Woolpit will be accommodated through expansion of the existing primary school within Elmswell to 420 pupil places, and through creation of a new primary school at Woolpit, again providing 420 places. And as the chairman has already said, that's fantastic. A new school, woohoo! And expansion of an existing school. It can't be too bad, can it? You add into it that actually we're building a footpath, cycleway. It's got good road access for the people that want to use cars, and they will still want to use cars, and we can also use buses. So getting to the school in Woolpit, again, no issues whatsoever. I think this is a sustainable location for a development, and that development, because it's sustainable, is supported by the MPPF. Suffolk County Council have also identified that expansion of primary and secondary education can be accommodated in line with the approach outlined within the RDP. So again, all good. I can find no reason at all in the papers in front of me to refuse this application. So I am minded to approve.
Thank you for that. That's a recommendation from you. Do I have a seconder for that proposal, please?
Sorry, Madam Chair, for a point of clarity, that is a proposal.
Yes, sorry. Yes, thank you for clarity. So I have a proposal. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Custon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to second Councillor Humphrey's proposal.
Thank you. And so now we have a proposal and a seconder. We can go round again, but I'll do it in the hands up function. And Councillor Stringer, you have your hand up, and Councillor Mellon, and just slow down, let me catch up with you. So Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Chair. It won't cause anyone any surprise that I disagree with the mover and the seconder of this motion. To say that this site has good road access is sort of, I think, will give howls of derision from those that live in Elmswell. And to say that the road access is supported by the MPPF is really not right. Also, the infrastructure for this site and the joint local plan, etc., has been flagged up. But this has not been yet past inspection. All this infrastructure delivery and bringing this school in Woolpit for the children of Elmswell hasn't actually passed an inspection yet. So I think, I again think the original decision of this committee was the right one. So I won't be voting in favour of this application.
Thank you, Councillor Stringer. Councillor Mellon.
Madam Chair, sorry, could I just intervene as a point of order? Councillor Stringer misquoted me completely. I didn't say the road was supported by the MPPF. I said sustainable development was supported by the MPPF. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Stringer, as well, for your comments, and Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Mellon, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I just have a bit of clarity on the provision of the Cycleway footpath link? It's mentioned in paragraph 5.1 on page 41, and then we're talking about a contribution of, I think, 55,000 towards it. Can we have some clarity about how far that 55,000 will go? If we approve this application, is it guaranteed that the cycleway and footpath link will be built? Is there enough funding for it, or is it dependent on other development within Elmswell to provide that?
Daniel, can you help us?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the 55,000 won't deliver the entirety of the footway cycleway, although that is being brought forward within Suffolk County Council's 5-year plan for footway and cycleway delivery. So it's not I'm trying to think of the right word, apologies. It's not deliverable on the back of this development alone. It will be delivered in concert with a number of other developments, but that's not unusual for how infrastructure to support delivery of infrastructure supported by delivery of development is brought forward. So we've got a number of applications or sites to be brought forward through the joint local plan for Elmswell and Woolpit, all of which would be required to contribute. So at present we have the site in Elmswell at School Road, which will bring forward a significant chunk of that. We have also the site in Woolpit that will be delivering the primary school, and that will also be delivering a chunk of said footway cycleway link as well.
Right, so the statement that the proposer has made, I think, which was that we will have a cycle link, that is not really, it can't be conditioned by this approval. I think that's what you're saying.
So the cycleway won't be delivered in entirety on the back of this development. However, we do have a commitment from Suffolk County Council that they want to bring it forward within the next 5 years. And we have a number of developments going on in Elmswell and Woolpit that are also expected to make contribution towards it. I think it's worth remembering as well that we are dealing with an outline planning application, so there'd be a delay between any grant of this permission, approval of reserved matters, which would still need to come back to committee for additional scrutiny. So there'd be a time delay there. So we'd be seeing some of that infrastructure being brought forward in any case on the back of other developments, and this development would secure funding to see that come forward as well.
I think Mr. Isbell can give us a bit more help on the 106 with regard to that. Can you not, Mr. Isbell?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I mean, I think the point here is we have, as you'd expect, we have confidence in the County Council's plans, whether they be for education or for the delivery of highway infrastructure. So, from our perspective, the capturing of the money here and the fact that this is already, in a plan is a thing which, as a planning authority, we may have confidence in. It doesn't guarantee delivery per se, but as with most things in planning decisions, there is a commitment there which I think is in the public domain and one can take comfort from. There was a related point, I guess, which is also the progress of the Elmswell neighbourhood plan and its aspiration, as I'd understood, to deliver the bypass route. Just going through the report, I don't believe we'd included that within the Section 106 obligations, Chairman, and I would recommend that if members are content that we add an obligation to safeguard a potential bypass route consistent with the approach we took in the Taylor-Wimpey scheme adjacent. So effectively, that's an additional bullet under brackets little 1 of the recommendation, an additional obligation to safeguard potential bypass route. Thank you, Chairman.
And can Councillor Humphreys and Councillor Caston agree with that addition, please, or disagree?
Yes, yeah, I agree.
You agree, Councillor Caston?
Yes, I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah, to safeguard it. Councillor Mellon, thank you for your question and debate. Have you had sufficient information there?
Yes, I'm just wondering where we've had other similar applications, and it may have come forward with reserved matters, that we could we condition first occupation of the site on the on the footpath and cycleway link already having been constructed? I mean, this is probably not a question for now, but
no, it probably isn't. Can the officer just correct us on that, please?
So within the Section 106 agreement, we'll have a series of triggers related to the provision of the cycleway. So I think probably what we'd be looking to do is we'd be looking to set an appropriate trigger point within development for payment of monies, and then we'd probably be looking to impose a similar sort of restriction on the county council to see those monies used and for delivery of the cycleway being brought forward. Now, I don't think we'd be, and I assume Mr. Dupre can come in and correct me as well if I'm misspeaking here, but I think probably what we wouldn't be able to do within Section 106 is tie the occupation of this site to delivery of infrastructure off-site. We are in control of the delivery of the infrastructure, and I say we, and I of course mean the Suffolk County Council at the same time. So provided we can get that money in a reasonable time, which I don't think would be something that we would necessarily struggle on, we can then look to chivvy along the county council using our own methods rather than limiting occupation of this site in that manner.
And I also think at the moment we've got to be careful that we are debating of an off-site issue, whereas we've got the monies towards it. So we've got to look at this site and what it's providing. Would I be correct in that, Daniel?
Yes, Chair, I think so.
Right, thanks. Lovely. So there we are, Councillor Mellon. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more thinking time. Thank you. And does anyone else wish to speak that we now have a proposal and a seconder on the table? In which case, then we will go to the vote, if we may, please. Can I ask you, Robert, to call a vote? Thank you. Remember, I think, just before we do go, can members, are they happy with the recommendation with those additions? You don't need to have it read out a second time. So if we can go to the vote on that basis, over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Chair. So if members could please respond with for, against or abstain. So Councillor James Carston.
For.
Councillor Peter Gould.
For.
Councillor Cathy Guthrie.
For.
Councillor Barry Humphries.
For.
Councillor Andrew Mellon.
against.
Councillor Mike Norris.
For.
Councillor Andrew Stringer.
Against.
And Councillor Roland Warboys.
Against.
Thank you, Chair. I make that 5 votes for, 3 against it, with no abstentions. If I could confirm with Mr. Dupre.
Yes, indeed. I confirm 5 votes for, 3 against, no abstentions. The resolution has been passed.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, we've only been going an hour. Do members want to have a break or shall we keep going? Keep going. Right.
Happy to keep going.
So we now move on to our second application, and Gemma Walker's going to present this case for us, land adjacent Port 1 Business and Logistics Park. So if you'd like to present the case, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just share the PowerPoint. Oh, no. Why is that? Right. Can you see the PowerPoint?
We can see something. I'm not sure.
Yes, but it's a different document, Gemma.
Oh, sorry.
I recognise my own handiwork.
Sorry. We'll go for desktop then, and that will allow me to circumvent that. Sorry, everybody. Right, let's try that one. Apologies. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Right, yes, this is land adjacent to Port 1 Business Park, Blackacre Hill in Great Blakenham, and it's an outline planning application with access to be considered. It's in the parish of Great Blakenham, not within the settlement boundary, but noting that Great Blakenham itself is a key service centre. This is the red line of the application site, which probably doesn't mean a great deal for the moment, but I will go on to just show that in a bit more detail. We can just see this is the B13 here and access coming through here, and this is the energy for waste. But I said hopefully the next plan will show that in more detail. So again, just the red line. So here we go. This is the we'll start with the A14 coming down here on the B13 and then up and access into the site with Orion Business Park, the Port One Business Park, the greenhouses, which members may well be familiar with, the energy from waste building, and then over to the top we've got the Snow Oasis site on there as well. So you see quite a cluster of commercial and employment development on the locality. So again, just to take that out, access onto the A14 and that corridor through there. So again, just to return to that zoomed in version of the site, this is just showing public rights of way that sort of surround the site. And then just to reflect the changes going forward in the draft joint local plan, noting it is draft and we're not proposing to give it weight, particularly in the considerations application, it does nonetheless give us an idea of the expectations going forward. So you can just see the pink line, hopefully around the edge of the application site. That is the extension to the settlement boundary. And then the blue dashing is an employment allocation. And then this is the approved red line that had previously been approved on the application site. So again, there is an extant consent for development on part of this site. I will show members how the sites sort of layer together. Part of this site essentially doesn't have consent for any development, but a significant proportion already does have consent. So again, we can see the red line of the site boundary to the north with Orion Business Park, the Suffolk Energy from Waste in purple, and the greenhouses site in green. And so here we can see the red line for the original planning permission. This is the greenhouses to the south. And then we layer on our site. So you can see that it is essentially only a small portion that doesn't already essentially have permission. And this will, there we go, just show the part of the site that sets outside of any extant planning permission boundaries. So you can see it is essentially primarily consented. Okay. Just some ideas of sort of typical warehouse specifications in terms of ridge heights. We'll come back onto that in a bit. I've got some levels plans just to show members because I appreciate that's been sort of something that's at question from our point of view, but I'll run through that in a second. So again, just picking out some of the previously approved, we can just see the energy from waste site up there. Oh. Okay. So as I said, it's not currently allocated, it is countryside, but we do think it's generally consistent with our local plan policies and having regard for the presumption in favour of sustainable development, and noting again that going forward in the JLP, it is included in terms of Claydon and Blakenham with Addison Way, that it's an area for expected commercial and employment development. Looking at adequate highway access, being sensitive to its surroundings and high quality design. So they're things that we would like to look at going forwards. The overall sort of location of the site is down that corridor where we might expect commercial and employment development, good access onto the A14, and overall somewhere where, despite the fact we are looking at essentially this being countryside, that employment development would seem a logical place to feed into that corridor. And again, it's looking at support for the council's strategic priorities and that open for business strategy supporting economic development. To move on to that economic development point, we have had comments from the economic development team who confirm that they've got no objection, that it would be a good strategic employment site offering growth with, they approximate 675 new jobs for the district. To move on to access arrangements, because access is included in this outline proposal, you can see in yellow, hopefully you can see my mouse too, the existing access off Addison Way, which is in only. And then we've got the green arrow, which is the new access that's proposed as part of this, which is left turns in and right turns out. So essentially you can come up either way from Bramford Road and turn in, and then you can only turn left into the site. So there's no access from Bramford Road this way. And then when you exit the site, it's right turn out only. So you've got to come down this way onto Bramford Road, and hopefully members will be vaguely familiar. You can only in fact turn left out of here on Bramford Road. So you are essentially forced to go out to the A14 junction. Now, obviously, we can't stop people turning around at the roundabout and coming back, but essentially we're pushing traffic onto the A14 to keep that, heavy traffic potentially going onto the A14 and onto that main corridor. So just to pick out on the illustrative layout, as you can see, nice yellow dots, hopefully quite visible. They're the buildings that are the subject of this application, whilst the buildings in here have previously consented. And then just a slight zoom in on some of the landscaping proposals, which includes a fair amount of landscaping and surface water drainage proposals. Initially, surface water drainage, the county Floods and Water had raised an objection, but they're now content that we can deal with that by condition through part of the reserve matters. And then just to pick up on the indicative site proposal. So the 3 buildings in the centre are essentially the both consented, and then with the 4 down here and a larger one to the front, that is what we're looking at as part of this current proposal. So again, just to pick up on the highways, you can see that we're talking the left in, right out, and how that this junction you can only turn left here. You can't come down onto Bramford Road to the south. So to pick up on the levels, this application did mention having a 50-metre ridge height, which I think is something that you might initially say, oh, 50 metres, that's quite significant. I think energy from waste is 37.5 metres. But having said that, there are some significantly tall buildings in the area, and actually some of this comes down to levels. So if I just try and run through that quite quickly. So section A at the top here is looking straight through the 4 proposed buildings here. So starting at the left-hand side is at the top, and you can see we just work down through the site. Doesn't give you the sort of relations to the existing buildings. The other sections are perhaps slightly more helpful on that one. So again, section B, we're looking through the existing buildings and consented. So this is the darker grey building coming down through the lesser grey building, and the yellow is the proposed. So you can see, although it would have a significant ridge height, actually it is related to the existing buildings. And then the same again if we look at C and D, which are coming across the site. So we're looking through this building here on this elevation, and then through the consented proposals, it is not dissimilar, and makes use of the levels across the site. And again, with A, you can see that we make use of those levels. Having said that, we are proposing a condition which essentially says we're not agreeing a specific maximum or minimum ridge height here. What we would like to do is to save that for the reserve matters, because when we get to reserve matters, we will look at specifically scale and appearance, and that scale we think should be something that we agree at that point. But having said that, you can see roughly how it might fit in, and that we're not we don't consider that's unacceptable to consider refusal on that basis at this stage, but that we can save that as something we look at reserve matters. And again, when we're looking through the area, there are a lot of tall buildings in that cluster. So starting with Snoasis, which I think comes in, I think it's 97. Sorry, I've lost that. Bear with me. I'll see if I can double check that one for you. But there, the energy from waste you can see here, and then the greenhouses. So in conclusion, really, yes, it is in the countryside, but we are talking essentially a small extension to existing. It's quite similar to the existing and consented proposals, and it would overall be considered to be a reasonable location and offer good benefits in terms of the economy. So the proposal is, the recommendation is for approval. That is subject to a deed of variation, so that we mirror across the 106 agreements previously, which related primarily to travel plan and some highways works, and then that we grant permission subject to conditions. I hope that's clear, and thank you, Chair. If there's any questions, more than happy to help.
Chairman, can I just
thank you for that, Gemma. There are a few points that we do need to add before members go to questions, and that in the recommendations we haven't got anything about bats, ecology, and also archaeology seems to have been missed off the recommendations. And then you also alluded to traffic management. And I know Suffolk is looking at the whole thing. I know our councillors will be able to help us on that for lorry movements and so on. Is there any way that we could restrict them going from the site, okay, up round the roundabout and coming back down again, but clearly to join the A12? Is there anything we can do with that, if you could consider that? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so conditions, yes. So the archaeology conditions, which I think are pages 162, and also the ecology conditions, which are also detailed in full, pages 170 to 172 or 73.
Yeah, but they're not in the conditions.
No, they're not in the recommendation. They should be in the recommendation. So the recommendation would also include the archaeology conditions as detailed on those pages, and the ecology conditions as detailed on those pages.
Thank you.
In terms of traffic, no, I think they have done the maximum they can in terms of stopping traffic going up Bramford Road into Great Blakenham.
Okay, well, we'll debate that as it goes forward, but that was just a point. Right, so thank you for that. So members, if you'd like to have hands up to ask the officer any questions, please do so. So Councillor Mellon, please. And then I've missed whoever the other one is. I looked down. So, Councillor Mellon.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just wanted to ask the officer. One of the early slides showed a lot of vegetation, trees on the site, but I couldn't see in the papers where details of how many trees are going to be lost by this development. Have you any idea? And what's the sort of maturity of those trees? Thank you.
So I think hopefully this slide's slightly helpful on this one. The majority of the site, as you can see, is actually already under development. So I think we're looking at something like 4.8 hectares that doesn't currently have consent for works on. And again, the majority of the trees are around the outskirts of the site. And if I come back down to that one, so that those around the outskirts are kept as part of the proposal, and with some replacement. But landscaping would be part of the reserve matters, and I think we've also got a condition on it to control that, but I can't specifically answer how many trees might be lost, but hopefully that helps somewhat.
Yeah, sorry, you sort of shuttled back and forth between the slides before I could really get it, but there was a belt of trees across the middle of the site which seems to be completely gone at the end. So would that be correct, that there's a good chunk that are being lost in?
Let me see if I can find the
yeah, I can't see from this whether they're mature trees or whether they're something fairly newly planted. It looks like some sort of planting that's been done on an earlier scheme, perhaps.
Kathy, could I make a comment?
Well, I will let you in a minute, but can we?
Yes, I think you're right. There's a belt of trees across there.
If it's relating to this, I think Councillor Field might be able to help us. I was going to come to you after Councillor Stringer, but just for this point.
To this, I was just going to point out that, as you know, this land was owned by Michael Blakenham, who was a fairly renowned environmentalist, and there were a string of trees up there that he lovingly preserved for various reasons for a great period of time.
Yeah, we don't need debate on it, John. We just want to know if there were trees up there.
There are, and they're of a great value, a number of them. I don't know which ones are the ones of great value, but it should be taken.
Okay, I'll come back to you in a minute because you've got your hand up as well.
Thank you.
So Councillor Mellon, does that help you, that you've got the answer to your question at the moment, and perhaps the officer can look through the photographs and see if they can identify them again, and then we'll come on to Councillor Stringer for his question. And can you put your hands down if you've spoken, please?
Yeah, so yeah, just a bit more information on the trees would be helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I've got 5 questions. Does this application allow for the storage of containers? Because most logistics and lorry warehousing stuff allows you as a permitted development to stack containers up to 4 high. So can I have some clarity on that? Could I also have clarity? Page 185. there is a yellow hatched area on the adjacent site. Can I be confirmed that is the SSI for archaeological reasons? Because I can get from this map there's a spectacular cliff, believe it or not, in the middle of Suffolk. There is a cliff there which is incredibly wildlife. It's stacked with wildlife, and also you can see right down to the Ice Age. That needs to be very sensitively treated, that junction.
Yeah, Andrew, we don't need to debate on it.
I'm not debating. I'm just reasoning. I'm asking the question.
Yeah, well, no, we don't need that. We just want the question.
Okay.
Can they answer the first two questions? Because you've got
fine.
3.
I have.
So, Gemma, can you answer the first 2 questions for us, please?
Yep. So I don't believe there's any expectation for storage containers. If I just go back to the site location plan.
Can I just clarify, and sorry for overriding you there, Gemma. I mean, there is a condition recommended which is for no outside storage. I mean, it doesn't talk about containers specifically, but it's something that we can include, and this is the stage, the outline stage is the time to do it if that's of concern to committee. Thank you,
that's helpful. And then the second question for Councillor Stringer, and then we'll come back to him for his others. The yellow hatched area and the SSI area, is that the area that we've put in the condition for archaeology and that sort of thing?
It will have been what archaeology looks at. The archaeology condition is in full on page 162 and then on to 163.
Yeah, but it wasn't in the condition, so we need to
but
make
that's
sure
what we're proposing. Clear. We do include, to protect that archaeology as county have recommended.
Yeah, so Councillor Stringer, fire away. Your 3 final questions.
No, 3. So are we suggesting then that traffic can turn right and then right out of here and go through Sproughton? Also, my fourth question, and we're nearly there, have we got a condition for vehicle charging points on this? And also, is there a condition relating to CS3? CS3 means any building over 1,000 square metres that's non-residential should generate 10% of its own power renewably. This is 69,000 square metres. Could we be shown where that condition is? Thank you, Chair.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the right in, right out junction is, so I said, if you're coming off this junction, you can turn in. You can't come this way and turn in. That's not available. If you're coming out of the site, you've got to turn right. And at this point, you've got to turn left. Sorry, you've got to go up towards the A14 junction. As I said before, we can't prohibit people doing essentially a U-turn around that, going all the way around the roundabout and coming back south. But essentially, traffic will not be able to turn directly south to go through the villages. And I think the expectation from County Highways is having got onto the A14 roundabout, the likelihood should be that you then go on to the A14 rather than through any villages. Does that help that one? Conditional vehicle charging points. Yes, I believe there is a conditional vehicle charging point. If I stop sharing my screen in a second, I can check the bullet points. And the same on CS3, there's a renewable and let me find it. Just bear with me a second. It is.
Well, I'm just reading them and it does say no outside storage, so that's in there.
There we go. That was the. Yeah. Sorry, scrolling down. It takes a little while on the screen, and I'll find the bullet number. Nearly there. Sorry.
Gemma, just to help, I think the third bullet up from the bottom of the list of
no, it's always at the bottom, isn't it? Energy renewable to be agreed.
And the learning point for officers' convenience as well is number the conditions rather than using bullets.
Yes.
Energy
and then a few above that is the EV charging points as well.
Yes, energy, and so the third up from the bottom is energy and renewable integration scheme. Put my teeth in, integration scheme to be agreed, and then about 5 up from that is EV charging points. Now, clearly the expectation is that the wording of that condition would pick up on the requirements of policy, Chairman.
Yep. Well, it's been brought up at the meeting very eloquently, so I think that needs to be taken into account. Councillor Stringer, I thought there were 5, well, there were 5 there. Is that sufficient now? Thank you.
I think so. So are we mentioning CS3 in there? Because I couldn't find it.
Well,
yeah. It's just for helping for everyone that's reading it consequently.
Yeah. Phil?
Yeah.
Oh, Gemma,
Go-
yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, I think in terms of the wording of the condition that we might expect, the reason behind that would certainly be CS3, so it would get mentioned in the full wording of the condition. But I absolutely take the point as far as the committee report. It would have been much more helpful for members to understand that it was related to CS3 at this point. So leave that with me. I'll take that away, and learning point, along with perhaps numbering the conditions, as Phil mentioned, to help make things easier for us.
Yeah, I think that's good for the future. Thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Stringer. If you'd like to put your hand down, and then Councillor Field, you had a question and you were trying to help us earlier, and I know Gemma will be looking to see if she can find some pictures with some trees. But your point, please, your question. Thank you.
Right, a couple of questions. One thing, it would be quite useful if Gemma could flip to that slide that shows the building that's currently going on the site. Sort of gives a bit of context. But couple of questions. The new entrance and the discussion about it, and sort of understand the left turn and things, I got that put into reduce, and it has effectively cut the fatalities at that junction. It's cut them to 0, which is good. But the entrance, I understood that there is an application in at the moment to delay the construction of the new entrance, which was required by the last planning permission. And there's a comment, so question, is that true? And when does that delay stop? The other point is that you talk about traffic light controlled junctions, but there are sort of 2 junctions. One's Addison Way, one's the new one. It's totally unclear to me which one of those 2 is being proposed to be traffic light controlled. So that's a clear question. The next one really is about the height of buildings. It's easy to get confused, and I wasn't helped by the discussion so far. Are those heights, the 50-metre ridge heights above the ordnance datum, or are they heights above the local, albeit drastically altered, land contour? Because it's important, because there's quite, the hill there is about 32 metres high. So could we get answers to those 2 points?
Yeah, perhaps if I start with the heights and we'll work backwards, maybe if that's all right with you.
Yes.
So if I perhaps see if we can see that one a bit larger on the screen. There we go. Hopefully that's a bit larger. So you can see we've got finished floor levels and ridge heights on this plan, with the levels on the left hand side showing. So it's I think the one of them, I think it's this one, I can't quite see it, is ridge at 50.5, but I don't think, as I say, I don't think that's height necessarily altogether. It's relates to the levels on the site as well.
So you were saying that's 50.5 above ordnance datum, i.e. equal to the surrounding hills, or is that 50 metres above the 30-metre baseline? That seems, if it was, it seems gigantic, but I just want to be sure.
So,
if it helps, Gemma, I believe from that section, what you see, you have the finished floor levels, AOD, and you have the ridge heights, AOD, on that drawing, which I think is perhaps less disturbing than something else, Councillor Field.
Yes, well, that's what I imagined, but I just want to make sure I'm correct. Okay, the next one was the we'll take it as AOD heights. The next one was the issue about the entrance, which keep moving my mouse about, which you can't see. The first entrance from the traffic lights, the one that you're showing there, is that the one to be traffic light controlled, or is it the one at Addison Way, the next junction along? And is that entrance you're showing to be constructed, or is there an application in to delay its construction?
I need to check on whether we've got an application. Again, if I just come out of the screen.
Gemma, if I chip in at this point, yes, we do have a planning application. It has only literally just come out of its site notice consultation period. And so what we'd say here would obviously be a little bit guarded, and it does look to vary conditions 20 relating of the 17 permission relating to the access road details and the cycle route improvements. We do have a comment from county, but I don't think from what I'm currently seeing on the screen that I've got any information regarding highways as a response just yet. But I'm just looking through that file. So can we come back to Councillor Field on that?
If you would, I mean, clearly the committee should be looking at true information, not imagination. I must add as well, a real question perhaps to Phil, is there have been quite a few changes in professional views on this documentation, particularly Highways England had a load of issues, the county flooding team had issues, Natural England had a range of issues. A lot of these seems to have disappeared. A suspicious local person might argue what pressures are being applied to achieve those changes. Could I be assured that there isn't any pressure being applied?
Just so I understand what you're asking, sorry, is that pressure to change views on the part of consultees and stakeholders?
It is.
Right. So for the record, no. As clearly consultees' views are consultees' views. We don't seek to pressurise, if you want to use that word. No, I don't. We don't seek to change consultees' views. If we think they're wildly wrong or are creating risk, we will point that out. But ultimately, as long as they can stand by those views in a public inquiry, then the view of a stakeholder is the view of a stakeholder, and the planning authority's role and officers' role in supporting that is to give you a recommendation taking account of that. And we may well weigh it, but we don't attach pressure to people to change their perspectives. So I'm not quite sure. I can understand that there's always a perception if you can't see what's going on, it clearly must be suspicious. But you know, our role and the role expected by the government in the NPPF is that we will seek to find solutions rather than obstacles, and we do that. So if we have a comment which we think can be overcome, we will ask people to explore overcoming it if that's the circumstance. But it's not pressure. If they say no, that's their view, so be it.
Thank you for that assurance. Thank you for that assurance. You understand, as a local councillor, I run into many conspiracy theorists and need an answer. Thank you.
I fully accept that, and just for record, as I'm looking at it at the moment, I can see a comment from the county contributions manager, which seems to have been uploaded into our system as a comment from County Highways. I can't at the moment track a County Highways comment on the changes proposed, so I'm still struggling. Maybe Gemma might be able to track that down better than I am, so I'm still working on that one, Councillor.
Did I get an answer on which of the junctions is traffic light controlled?
You didn't, so Gemma, can you help us on that one, please?
I'm just looking. So I don't think the highways comment says anything specifically about that.
Can we come back to that, Councillor Field, and let Gemma look that one up for you? Because these are questions that you know, we can.
I would be happy. I feel the committee needs to know the right answer, and you know, not to particularly prejudice things, but you understand Addison Way is very close to the Snow Oasis roundabout proposal, so one wants to make sure that we understand truly what is being proposed.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Good. You know, if we can just leave it to come back to that on that.
Thank you.
So,
okay.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Field. We don't have any representatives from the parish council, objector or supporter, but we have the applicant to speak. He might be able to help us on some of those questions. So do we have the applicant to speak? Nick Davey, is it?
Yes, I am here, if you can hear me.
If you want to put your video on, there you are. Yes, please, we can hear you. Thank you very much.
I think my video is on, I hope.
Yeah, it is now, and we have 3 minutes, and Mr. Carmichael will give you a time on that, please. So if you'd like to start, thank you.
Thank you very much, members. I heard some of the debate, some of the. I did drop out a couple of times, so I'll try and answer some of the queries or the outstanding queries that I did hear. But just to give you some background, in 2019, the committee did grant consent for the new estate roads, the junction onto Bramford Road, and the first of the warehouse buildings on what will eventually be the 15.5 hectare Port One logistics park. Now that building is due to complete next month. It's an £8 million investment. It should create 150 jobs, and the tenant will be in there from next month, and it should be operational by Christmas. On the back of that development and the site's excellent transport links, my client is getting a lot of interest in the site. And this application is there to try and meet that need. And it primarily seeks to regularise the site boundaries so that we can create more regular plot sizes and shapes that are better suited to the potential needs, and incorporate some 4 hectares of land into the scheme that already has permission to be developed as an industrial greenhouse. Accordingly, we're only actually seeking permission for a further 3.2 hectares of land to be developed as part of or which doesn't already have permission for employment-related development. One of the slides showed the additional land, mainly in the southwest corner. When you look at the site plan, most of that land is just going to be replacement planting, ecology, and for drainage ponds. The application, as we've said, follows the principles established by the covenant approval in terms of the access, the layout, building heights, and landscape treatment. There has been some discussion about building heights. I can confirm that the heights shown on those drawings are all AOD. So none of the buildings are more than 20 metres high. The ridge heights will be up to 50 metres, 41 on the lower buildings, and they are all below the tree heights, the trees on the western boundary. And coming to those trees, they were planted by Lord Blakenham, primarily to screen his house from the land. So from the industrial development that's already there at Great Blakenham and the incinerator plant. We are taking out some trees, but we're putting in far more replacement trees, and you can see that from the landscape drawings, than we're taking out. But some do have to come out in order to get a good layout, and all the important trees are protected. As to consultees, yes, there were some objections, primarily on ecology, highways, and landscape first time round, but we've worked hard with your consultees, and we've provided a lot of additional information while this application's been in, and we've hopefully got to the point where we've satisfied them and they are happy for the scheme to go ahead subject to conditions.
You need to be thinking of finishing. Thank you.
Right. So just coming through, we're also working with your highway team to try and coordinate the off-site highway improvements so that they tie in with Snowasis. The traffic signal that will be, so the junction that will be traffic signalised is the new one onto Bramford Road, the all movement one from the estate. It doesn't need to be traffic signalised for the current scheme, but it will be for the enlarged scheme.
Thank you. You're now well over your 3 minutes.
Okay, if you have any questions, I'll be pleased to try and field them.
Thank you very much indeed. So members, do you have questions? I think Mr. Davey was trying to answer some of the questions for us. So first of all, Councillor Stringer, and I will come back to Councillor Field if his questions haven't been satisfied. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Mr. Davey. Just sort of asking about the boundary where it says Blue Barn Lane. Is that? Am I right in thinking that is where there's sort of almost a cliff the other side of that?
Yeah, I mean that's to the north. That's between ourselves and the Snowasis development.
Yeah.
And that has been taken into account. I mean, it's not within our scheme, so we don't directly impact on it, but indirect impacts have been taken into account in the ecology and the geology and the archaeology reports, and the relevant consultees, place services are happy with what we put forward.
Okay, it's just that there was half of that border is tree lined, and the other bit looks like development's going right up to that lane, and that would be a concern to me, knowing the topography of that cliff and the ecology that lives there.
We're not extending any further north than the current permissions, so we're not coming any closer to the lane than the current permissions.
Thank you for that.
All-
We've got to
all
make
the
sure
extensions
we're
are to the
debating
west and
this. The
south.
answer is that you're not coming any further north. Councillor Stringer, do you have another question?
That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stringer. Any other members on the committee have any questions for Mr. Davey? Councillor Warboys, if you'd like to ask your question, please. Councillor Warboys, would you like to ask your question? We can't see or hear you just at the moment.
Sorry, I was talking to myself here. Yes, Mr. David, could you just sort of confirm the development with regards to energy use and actually possible generation of energy as well?
Yes, is this the policy CS3 question?
Yes.
Yeah. We have a full sustainability and energy statement submitted with the application. It's one of the submitted documents, which does commit us to fully complying with policy CS3. We've done that with the existing development, the building that will open next month. And we expect a similar condition. On the previous consent, there was a condition which provides that the development shall proceed in accordance with the approved drawings and all the submitted details, which would include the energy statement. And I'd expect a similarly worded condition on this application.
Thank you.
There are a lot of photovoltaic cells going on the roof of that building that's going up now.
I can imagine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warboys. If you can put your hands down now, please. And Councillor Field, then over to you for your question, please.
Okay, thank you. Good to hear about photovoltaic cells, much better than on agricultural land. The question's a simple one. It's really about that entrance. Is it to be implemented in the current approved scheme, or is it being delayed?
What we've actually, it's quite complicated.
Well, look, I don't want debate. It's either yes or no for Councillor Field.
We put an application at the request of the County Council. They've asked us to delay the implementation of the new junction so that they can dovetail the improvements with those coming forward from Snow Oasis. So they've asked us to delay it for 18 months.
Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. And I believe Philip Isbell was just going to come in with a comment.
Thank you, Joan. Yeah, just so that members have a little bit more clarity over this, I've now tracked down a highways comment on this application. So it's basically an application under section 73 varying condition 20 of the 17 permission, which was road access details, and condition 26, which was off-road cycle route improvements. So it's basically a completely fresh application for planning permission. As I say, it's still under consideration. So what I say is measured by officers keeping an open mind. Got comment back from County Highways on the 1st of October. That's available online. The county do say they don't object to the proposal. However, there are a number of comments in their response, which I won't trouble committee by reading out. Suffice to say, this does appear to me that this sounds like a matter which committee would be interested in to give scrutiny for, because the comment coming from Highways certainly is not without qualification, but literally as read, they do not appear to object to the proposal, but it looks as though they need some more information. But it sounds to me as though this is a matter of that certainly would logically, in order to give committee and the public comfort, probably be something that we'd report to committee in due course, Chairman. So, I mean, if members want to review that in due course for themselves, they can do. I don't think it alters this. The revisions to the access arrangements, for the sake of the record, are not varied at the moment. So they have no planning permission, and the currently agreed access road arrangements are still standing as required under the 17 permission. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, that's helpful. Right, now then, what we haven't done is asked the committee if they have some questions for Councillor Field. So do members of the committee have questions for Councillor Field, please? No. Right. Sorry about that, John. I think you've covered everything. I think that's probably the issue.
I haven't made an input yet. I've only asked questions.
Oh, haven't you? Oh, well then, please give us your input then. I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. I will continue. See how well I read. I think in the past, both I and the community have supported this development. It's an employment site of some value. It's close to the county town and to the A14. So, and clearly we want to live in a prosperous area with good employment. So we have supported these sites. However, the sheer volume of development in Gipping Valley raises questions and the need for effective action to minimise effects or eliminate developments that can no longer be accommodated. Parish councils have made a number of points clearly, and I will add to some of those, I hope. On highways particularly, it's always a major consideration. Apparently, congestion is not identified by modelling as a result of this proposals. However, such issues were identified by Highways England and appear to have been withdrawn. This is despite the acceptance of applications that will increase traffic substantially, particularly Snow Oasis, Blakenham Mill, Blakenham Field sites that are not yet complete, and several smaller sites in the area. The approach to the Claydon interchange is congested now in exactly the way Highways England have questioned, and it's difficult to see why that's not a limiting factor. This is a real problem, and we need to accept that roads have a finite capacity. If we want Snow Oasis, perhaps something must go. Extension to this site that we have supported in the past is perhaps the necessary sacrifice, particularly as the viability of the site will be affected by any traffic congestion in its A14 access. And that is something I witness on the way home regularly. It's not just make-believe. Flooding, again, I think is really significant, and perceptive officers' concerns appear to have vanished. They will be dealt with at the reserve matters stage, and perhaps that's a little late. The mention of discharges being above ground level, which obviously might be interesting but difficult to achieve, may be addressed, but the levels of the chalk that hold water which supplies Ipswich will not have altered. These are not issues that should be identified then dismissed. You and we need clear evidence they've been resolved. I'm not satisfied the documents contain that evidence. The environmental impact is the next point. There's a major bat colony involving some thousands of animals, some of them very rare species, at the Little Blakenham pit, which is less than a kilometre away. And those rare species range over a considerable distance in search of food and were a major concern for the Snow Oasis application, apparently not at risk from the cumulative impact of that and this site. Nature England were very concerned and pointed that this is a material consideration. It appears to vanish. It's similar for the great crested newt colony, whose needs can apparently be accommodated with ease. Well, again, major concern for other applications, and various measures, mitigation measures, seem to be extremely difficult to achieve. They're certainly not progressing forward in my view. On the visual amenity issue, thank you to the agent for the clarity about the building heights, but they're still pretty massive buildings. They're comparable to the FW plant, certainly in area, if not perhaps in height. It's difficult to see. Well, I would say it's difficult to see why. Certainly, perhaps stacker cranes do need 20-metre building heights. My concern is that they will dominate the crisis properties at Little Blakenham Common, which were faced by an 11-metre high greenhouse and now have a 20-something metre high warehouse, assuming the 50 metres is from quite a high ground level. And that's true of all the buildings. They're high buildings. 20 odd metres is quite a height, but they sit on top of a 32-metre hill. They will be visible over a wide area above the 50 to 55-metre height of the surrounding hills. I haven't seen a visibility analysis. Significant doubts that the condition concerning building heights aimed at the reserve matters application is strong enough. So that doesn't seek to be comprehensive. It's my views which sort of lead me to the thought that although I like the employment aspects, and I think there's much as this is an appropriate site, and I have supported the existing development and would have supported this, I am concerned that there are a whole range of issues that have not been addressed satisfactorily, to my mind, that need to be addressed for the committee to be clear on the decision it's making. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Sorry, it was because you'd sort of had quite a few questions earlier. I sort of lost it, that you hadn't given us your full views of it, and now you have. So thank you very much. So do members have questions for the ward member, please? I don't seem to be having any here. I would just make a comment that particularly on your comments regarding ecology and bats, I did bring it up right at the beginning to make sure that there is some condition stronger than just the wording in the report. So I take on board what you're saying there. Thank you very much. So we'll now move over to debate, and we can start off with Councillor Caston, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. This has been a difficult one from the start for me, because I'm very pro let's get the infrastructure, let's get the jobs, let's get money into the economy, and that's how I feel generally, that this is a really good site. It's exactly the type of development I want to see in this area, but it looks to me like that first development kind of picked the low-hanging fruit in what would do the least impact, and now we're looking at the slightly more complicated issues, where the big issue for me with this is that the how it goes into the trees. There's a really strong good belt of, they look like fir trees, and they're established. They're we're near the bat colony. I'm not sure if enough's been done to mitigate the issues with having it so close to this Blakenham pits. The Gipping River is a really important corridor through there as well, and it's slowly losing this cover and this harbourage for wildlife, which is really important. But for me, it does impact the environment greatly, this application. I think in this debate, what I want to hear from councillors is that the growth and the jobs and the boost to the economy that this gives is offsets that harm of removing these trees, and the how that it's particularly the warehouse at the top of the line that cuts in. It's hard to explain, but we've got 4 in a row, but there's the one sort of Great Blakenham side sort of cuts deeply into the into that tree belt, and I'm not too happy about it, is what I'll say at the moment. I want to listen to this debate, and I think it's really important that we look at this, because it does strike me as it does do a great deal of damage here.
Thank you for that, Councillor Caston. Just before I move on, Councillor Humphreys, was your hand up for a question? Because I'm just going to pop through A to Z for the moment.
No, sorry, my fault.
Right, okay. So we'll come to Councillor Gould. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This is a balance for me between the benefits of the economic employment benefits. The site in most respects seems very appropriate and already substantially developed. And I started thinking that this was an easier issue than I now view it to be. And it is the balance between those economic benefits and the impact on the ecology, plus the concerns that I have around the highways issues. And I kind of doubts were increased slightly with the Chief Planning Officer's invitation to members to kind of scrutinise this issue or take views on it. So like Councillor Custon, I'd be interested to hear the views of others, but I feel less certain on this than I did say an hour or half an hour ago. But I hear what others say. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Gould, thank you very much for that. Councillor Humphreys, please.
Madam Chair, thank you. Isn't it great news that in this time of national mass unemployment that somebody's got the confidence to actually develop and bring jobs to Mid-Suffolk? I think we should be really thankful for that, but I don't think it should be at any cost. However, this is an ideal area for it. It's an area that's already been developed. It's where we've got mass employment now, but to bring 600 more jobs, I think that is a really important point that we should not dismiss. This is a suitable location, it's sustainable, it's got good links to the A14. Whilst I understand the concern over the road access, this would be resolved, I'm sure, at Reserve Matters. And again, we're waiting for more information for Suffolk County Council. In terms of flooding, page 197, para 8.2, Suffolk County Council have now no longer have an objection. They had one before, but after more information has come forward, they've withdrawn that objection. So I think the flooding issue isn't as major as we might think. And again, on bats, page 157, the applicant has done many surveys. We haven't got the access to the information, but it's in the report, and it says there was no evidence of bats or uses of bats. However, I don't think we should disregard it, and I think because it is close to that bat colony that we put some protection measures in by condition anyway. The area is already being developed with consented development already going on, and the area has been pretty much cleared. But I think it is important to maintain as much of the tree belt as possible, and maybe that could be a condition as well. When we talk about the heights of the buildings, Gemma, thank you for the slides you put in it. It's really good to visualise the heights and the surrounding buildings that are already there and projected to be there. But there is a condition already in that says the heights will be a matter for detailed consideration at the time of Reserve Matters, and a reference to the 50-metre ridge height is not part of this outline planning permission, and that's a proposal, and that's an important point to take away. So that will be Reserve Matters. Overall, I think this is the right place. It's got good access to the A14, to the rest of the country, and to the Port of Felixstowe. It's an ideal place for a logistical base. The amount of jobs that we're going to bring to this area, 600 or thereabouts, is it can only be a good thing. I can't see many reasons why we would not go along with this. However, I'll wait until I've heard from other councillors. But on the face of it, it's the right place, it's the right time, it brings the right jobs. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Mellon, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, like other councillors have been saying, there's clearly a balance to be struck here between the economic benefit of this development and the other factors which come in. Obviously, there are going to be a large number of increased lorry journeys, and we already know that the A14 is crowded. As the ward member has said, the visual impact is going to be substantial from this. But the area which I have the most concern about, and where I don't feel I've got enough information at the moment, is about the ecology. There's a lot of information in there about bats, but that's not the only species or group of species that is going to be affected by the removal of trees. I mean, if we're talking about a mature oak tree, that could have 300 different species of invertebrates and all sorts of other things. Using it as a habitat, not just bats. What about the birds? What about the bees? What about other things? So I don't have enough information about the trees. What species are there that are going to be lost? What is their height? what is their age. I'm very wary, I'm sure other members are too, of approving something which could end up with the removal of ancient oak trees, as we've seen in other sites. So I at the moment, I don't feel minded to support this. Thank you, Chair. Sorry, on mute, Kathy.
Sorry, I'm clicking the wrong things. Councillor Norris, if you would, please. Thank you.
Sorry, I hadn't actually asked to speak at this point.
Well, I'm going through A to Z to see if anybody wants to enter the debate first, you see.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Because it gets everybody the opportunity to have a go, and then they can come back next time.
Sorry, I've lost thread on that. Like Councillor Mellon, I have some concerns regarding ecology and other protected species that might be on the site. I've also got some concern regarding the traffic movements out of the site. We've heard about the left turn going up to the roundabout, coming back the other way by going round the roundabout and then coming down back along Bramford Road, which would take heavy traffic through Sproughton. I'd just be interested to know from the officer whether there is a weight limit through Sproughton or any other measures that could be enforced. So that's all. Thank you.
Yes, that's a useful comment there, and if we can ask, I'll carry on members saying their part in the debate, and we'll ask Gemma if there is a weight limit up there. So that's a very useful question, thank you. So we now come on to Councillor Warboys, please.
Right, thank you, Chair. Yes. I think when I first looked through this, I must confess I greeted it the same enthusiasm as Councillor Humphreys. It is good to have investment and attracting jobs, and it is on first sight a really appropriate place. However, I think I find very influenced by the measured comments by the ward member, Councillor Field. There are concerns, and whether or not I'm really convinced by what's being said about them. I think the impact on road structure from and the junction at Claydon, I'm not convinced that's been answered or scrutinised properly. I'm not clear about, in particular, the delay in developing the junction. I can't see the purpose for that, especially as during the building work there's going to be increased lorry movements anyway. So I should have thought the junction should surely come before the development. Similarly, impact on biodiversity, water source and drainage, and the visual impact I think has gone through, but the notion of the 20 metres building on top of the 30-metre hill is something that really needs to be considered. Councillor Caston brought attention to the layout of the buildings. It's slide 6 in particular, and it refers to building 8, which really does reduce the wildlife corridor. We could see a removal of that corridor, but being replaced by tree planting in the southwest corner, but it's reduced to a minimum up in that northwest corner by the size of building 8 and 7. So I think that the layout could be considered a little bit more sensitively to maintain that wildlife corridor. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Warboys. Councillor Stringer, thank you.
Yeah, I think I concur with most of what the other councillors have said. This at first glance looks like what you call a shoe-in. You know, already a majority of this is already approved. But then you then get into the details, and I have to say it's that top left corner on the plan at 3.1 that really gives me big concerns. I know the area relatively well. I was on the original Oasis Planning Committee, so the topography of here I'm sort of familiar with, and how biodiverse this area really is. It is truly remarkable what unique species we have in this area, and it really seems, although the applicant is doing what they've been charged to do, which is bring about economic activity and return and investment, but I really think this could have been the design of this, or the layout of this, precludes a truly sustainable development in terms of that biodiversity. It almost looks like it sort of imposes its will rather than works with, and I think, to me, how it's sketched out at the moment, it looks like a missed opportunity.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stringer. Well, listening to you all, I'm in agreement with all of you. We've looked at this and it seems an absolutely excellent location for such jobs and all the rest of it. But I think there are too many ponderables here at the moment that we haven't really got satisfied. And I think Councillor Field drew attention to it, along with Councillor Caston. Of the biodiversity. I mean, that was something I was worried about myself in the beginning. And I wonder really whether we ought to link this with the Section 73 highways proposal and defer this for the moment to see everything as one, rather than doing things piecemeal. I wonder if I can ask Philip to comment on that suggestion if I put that forward as a proposal.
Thank you, Chairman. I think in the circumstances, bearing in mind, I would probably expect to report that Section 73 application to committee. If that's what members wish to do, that has some wisdom behind it. I would perhaps welcome, if we're going to take the application away and review those matters together and then bring them back to committee, it would be useful to have some guidance as to what members' wishes might be in relation to this layout question. Looking at I think these are identified as buildings 7 and 8, which certainly infringe into one of the planting belts. Whether there are particular focuses that members or committee might wish us to take away and look at with the applicant, now would be the time to do that if that's what members wish for. So clearly in your hands, Chairman, quite a lot of logic to linking the highways question with this, given what I've seen on the application as it presently stands for that. And to be able to come back and pull the threads together will be useful if there's a bit more instruction as to what members would wish us to look at.
Yes, well, from the chair, I've sort of made the proposal, but if anybody wants to make the proposal from, I say I've made the proposal, I've made the suggestion. If somebody wants to put flesh on that from the floor, we would want more, presumably with highways, biodiversity and flooding. But Councillor Caston, yes, if you would like to make an offer there, please.
Well, it's not so much to make an offer, it's just to say to the councillors, I think we've got to decide here whether this needs tweaking or whether fundamentally where those warehouses are is a problem on this application. Because I think if the right planting and maybe a reduction to certain areas, I think this could become something quite acceptable to me. But I think a tweak here and a tweak there maybe won't quite cut it on this one.
Councillor Caston, what I was thinking, not tweaking exactly, but having more information and working with the Section 73 is where I'm thinking I need a proposal for the officers to take that away to look at it. But that I see what you're saying. I'll go around the other councillors to see how they want to perhaps take it forward. Councillor Stringer, you've got your hand up. Thank you, Councillor Caston. Had you finished with your comments?
I was just going to say, yeah, with that course of action, I do feel that I don't know enough about. I know that Claydon roundabout traffic level is quite high from being the ward councillor there and in my last ward. I don't feel like we have got enough information on from this highway side, but I'll let you speak to Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Councillor Caston. Councillor Stringer first, and then Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Chair. I think actually the committee has expressed its support and its reservations quite well on this one, and I would certainly second any or propose, if you need to defer this application just to have one last look at this. We have to bear in mind that quite a lot of this development is already approved in some way, shape or form. Yeah. But I think there's been clear reservations expressed by members, some members, and I've looked at the application itself to make sure if we were to defer it, it could be amended, but and it could, because the actual square meterage of building is not part of the actual headline, as it were, of the application. So the sheds, technically, they've obviously gone through an assessment economically, whether they're economically viable, etc., and people want them. But there's certainly, I think, there is some considerable wiggle room here to actually look at this in a bit more of a sensitive manner.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stringer. Councillor Humphreys.
Madam Chair, yeah, thank you. I agree with Councillor Stringer. The obviously it's not reserved matters. Biodiversity improvements, that was one of them, wasn't it? And then the general layout, protection of the trees, that's the other information we want, not just the highways side of it. So yeah, I'd second a move towards deferral so we can get that information. So
am I taking it that Councillor Stringer, you are happy to propose it with those issues? I think Philip Isbell just wants to be clear on what we're asking them to go away with, but we do need to link it to that other one, which I think would be sensible, the section 73 highways proposal. Philip, if you'd like to just help us here, I think you know where we're going.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm trying to read the tea leaves as we go, and what I'm understanding is that I think we're now talking about a deferral of the application.
Absolutely.
In order to review and, as need be, reflect on the biodiversity mitigation measures, because I'm pretty sure that what we've seen is the advice we have is that harm is not present, but mitigation is a different question. That there is certainly an interest in the question of layout and protection of trees to be and any amendments associated with that to be considered, and obviously to report back together with the related to section 73 application, so the highways issues can be considered as one. And that's kind of where I got the deferral, but if I've got that right or got that wrong, I'd welcome advice, Chairman.
Councillor Stringer, that seems to be where I was thinking. Is that where you're thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's that. We get the reports of saying there would be no harm, but wildlife uses corridors, and you can see the existing corridors, and you know where the triple SI is, and there's a considerable wiggle room there to keep as much as possible of those connectivity wildlife routes that are at the moment now down to one tree thick.
Mm. And of course, from Councillor Humphreys, when you mentioned it earlier, you know, it really is an exciting prospect that somebody is developing this with all those jobs. So it's a fine balance. So Councillor Humphreys, are you happy with the comments to second the proposal for deferral?
Yes, and I agree with you. It's an ideal place for it. We just need to make sure it's right. So I'm supportive of the scheme, but we do want that extra detail as you just explained.
And Councillor Field, I think you just wanted to come in on that for us.
Yes, I'm not sure I'm allowed to speak at this time.
You're not really, but
just slightly bend the rules. I totally agree with the bits about employment and things. I just wanted to say, but the real, I would like to see an element of getting highways to look at the Claydon Junction again, because I think it's existing. It's congested. About halfway back to the.
Don't go on about it. You've got a bit of leeway here, John.
Sorry, I'd like to see something on there just to make sure, because it impacts on site viability and things. So if we could add that, I would be grateful. If you can't, it's clearly your decision.
Yeah, well, I think we'll leave it as it is. I think the planners will no doubt incorporate all of that. I think we've made it quite clear. So, Philip, are you happy with our proposal for deferral on the basis that we've just debated?
I think so, Chairman. Just so, yes, and
And it would come back to this committee with the other application.
So that we would effectively report the current live Section 73 application and this together to you, together with any amendments, an update on the biodiversity mitigation and any changes to the layout which address any issues concerning the tree protection aspects that members have talked about here. Clearly, as we've only just closed the consultation period on that Section 73 application, case officer will need a little time to write the report, but there's a window of opportunity there to bring both back together in one go.
Thank you very much indeed. So on that basis, can I now ask Robert to go for the vote on the proposed deferral?
Thank you, Chair. So if I could please ask members to respond with for, against or abstain. So Councillor James Carston.
For.
Councillor Peter Gould.
For.
Councillor Cathy Guthrie.
For.
Councillor Barry Humphries.
For.
Councillor Andrew Mellon.
For.
Councillor Mike Norris.
For.
Councillor Roland Wallboys.
For.
And Councillor Andrew Stringer.
For.
Thank you, Chair. That is unanimous.
Well, thank you very much indeed, everybody. I think we can have a 10-minute break now. Is that all right if we just have 10 minutes?
Sounds good.
Yeah, but just keep the screen.
Thank you, Chair. I'll now take a roll call to check that all members are present.
Thank you very much.
Councillor James Carston.
Present.
Councillor Peter Gould.
Present.
Councillor Kathy Guthrie.
Present.
Councillor Barry Humphries.
Present.
Councillor Andrew Mellon.
Present.
Councillor Mike Norris.
Present.
Councillor Roland Warboys. Councillor Warboys. You appear to be on mute, Councillor. I'll come back to you, Councillor Warboys, and Councillor Stringer, who...
Present.
So let's just wait 2 minutes. I will message Councillor Warboys. Right, I've messaged Councillor Warboys, Chair, just asking to confirm.
Could be having difficulty with the internet. It's quite windy out there. I'm wondering if there's an issue there. Can you tell if
with us now?
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, good.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor. We're all here then, Chair.
Slow kettle, I'm afraid.
Right. Are we live? Thank you very much indeed. And we now move on to the third and final case for today, DC 20-03026, Crest Nicholson site, land adjacent to Weatherden Road, Elmswell. So I'll now invite Alex Scott to introduce the case for us, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman, and I will try and present my screen. There we are. I hope you can all see that. And I will move to the slideshow presentation. Okay. Well, good morning, Chairman and members. This is application reference DC/20/03026. It is an application made under Section 73 of the Town and Country Planning Act for the variation of a condition, and specifically condition 1, that is approved plans and documents of previous approval reference DC/18/01679, which granted reserved matters for the erection of 240 new dwellings, including 84 affordable homes, to the north and south of Weatherden Road to the southeast side of Elmswell. The original application was considered and granted by committee on the 4th of October 2018. The current application seeks permission for the alterations to the scale and appearance of 39 of the 240 dwellings originally approved. That equates to, from my calculations, 16.25%, so 16.25% of the total. The affordable dwellings are not proposed to be affected, and the proposal relates only to the private market dwellings previously approved. And in overall summary, the proposal will introduce 10 new housing designs And these have not been previously considered by committee. They are new designs for the purposes of this application, and there will be some designs as previously approved, which will be lost, and I'll run with those through you. Run those past you. And sorry, I'm trying to get my words out. Excuse me. I'll run through those in a while as I go through the presentation. And the proposal would result in the loss of two bedroom dwellings, just to make you aware of that. However, there were across the wider site 60 two-bedroom dwellings approved, so we're going from 60 in total to 58. And in the place of the two-bedroom dwellings, there will be one 3-bedroom dwelling and one 4-bedroom dwelling, additional proposed in effect by way of this application. So we will move on to the presentation itself. And the first slide is the location of Elmswell within the district for the avoidance of doubts. This is a wider aerial view of the area, showing the settlement boundaries and the site edged in red here for you. And for the avoidance of doubt, we have Elmswell here, Woolpit here, Weatherden here, Hawley here, and Hawley Green there on the plan for you. This slide is a superimposed area of the site we're looking at, an aerial view. Please bear in mind this is an older picture, and works have actually commenced on site, as I will show you in the later photographs I have as part of this presentation. And we have a 3D image of the area and village. Again, an older photograph. Please bear that in mind. We have the constraints plan for you. Outside the village settlement boundary as defined in the plan. However, the principle has already been established, and for the purposes of today, I think the main constraint is the public footpath, which runs along the south and east boundaries of the southern parcel of the site. This is the red line site location plan, as already approved as part of the original planning permission, and this is carried forward as part of this section 73 application for revised reserve matters. And this is the layout as already approved, and the layout as proposed, and the white areas highlight the areas of concern for this application, so in the southern parcel only, and the dwellings proposed to be altered. This is a close-up of the layout as approved, and I have added to these plans just for the avoidance of doubt, which the areas we're dealing with. So the areas we're interested in outlined in red, and the yellow dots indicate the dwellings proposed to be altered as part of this current application. And just for your information, as requested by the chair and vice chair at briefing, I have indicated the 2-bedroom dwellings proposed to be lost in green for you there. So I hope that's helpful. And then a zoomed in view of the layout as proposed. These are the dwellings previously approved, the designs previously approved, which are proposed to be lost as part of this current application. And I've indicated the number of each design underneath each dwelling for you. And these are the proposed new dwellings. As I said, these are new designs for the purposes of this application, and these haven't been previously considered by committee. And again, the number of each design underneath for reference there. Now, in terms of comparison, I've set what has been approved in terms of the 4-bedroom dwellings above the line here. So you can directly compare this to the 4-bedroom dwellings, which are shown below the line there. And again, as requested by the Chair and Vice Chair, I've added the average internal floor space square meters for you there above, and what is now proposed. So that is the average for the 4 bedrooms. Moving on to the 2 and 3 bedrooms, again above the line, what was previously considered and granted and what is now proposed in terms of 3-bedroom dwellings. And for the 3-bedroom dwellings only, we have the average floor areas, and again, what is now proposed below for you. Onto some street scene elevations. This was what was previously considered and approved, and the street scene elevation of most relevance is the middle one, street scene B for the purposes of this application, and that is a view from the east, looking in as you're approaching from Weatherden direction. And this is the street scenes as currently proposed. And the next slide, I have a comparison of street scene B. Above is what was previously granted. Below is now what is currently proposed. And again, as requested by the Chair and Vice Chair, I've added the distance between each building for you. This is what was approved. This is what is proposed. So I hope that's helpful in terms of comparison as well. Onto some photographs. This was taken a while ago in 2018, and this is taken from the footpath to the rear of the site towards Weatherden Road, and then looking round to the right, to the east of that previous photograph, out of the village towards Weatherden direction, and then further round the footpath back towards Weatherden Road here. So we have the southern parcel here, and across in the fields is the northern parcel. This is as you come out onto Weatherden Road from the public footpath. This is looking towards Weatherden, then back towards Elmswell, and this is the area of the southern parcel. And then walking up the road towards the village again further. And this is a view of the northern parcel, and then towards the affected neighbour to that side. This is a recent photograph. As I mentioned at the top, the development is underway, and this hoarding has been erected around the southern parcel. This is looking out of the village towards Weatherden direction. And the opposite view looking back towards the village. And as you can see, some of the dwellings have been commenced on the southern parcel. And this is the northern parcel. And as you can see, a lot of the dwellings completed there as well. And that completes the presentation, and also recommendation as set out in the papers for you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much for that, Alex, and thank you for those additional pieces of information. I think that gives us a good grounding. So I'd leave one of those up for the time being. Yep. Do we have any questions for the officer, please? I will go to the ward member last, if you don't mind, Councillor Mansell. So Councillor Humphreys, followed by Councillor Caston. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. Yeah, good presentation. All sort of makes sense. The question I've got is on this slide, actually. So where you've got 13.7 metres and below it 11.8 metres, just left of centre of the screen. Can you confirm that's a road within the estate?
Yes, I can confirm that's a road within the estate, but the road width will not be altered as part of this current application. Just to confirm that.
And a supplementary question with that in mind: does that include the pavement? The pavement not getting any smaller?
No, the changes are within the curtilages, the plots themselves. So the pavement size won't be changing. That's not proposed. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you. And now Councillor Caston, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just to make sure my maths are all right on this, are we? Have we approved 39 houses, and does this propose putting 50 houses where 39 were before? Just so I'm clear.
Sorry. We're not approving any more dwellings. The number will stay the same. If it's just the design and bedroom number with regard to some of them that'll change.
Oh, right, thank you. Yeah, that's why I asked the questions.
Yes, yeah, there aren't any additional units proposed. Yeah. Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
And Councillor Warboys, can you take your hands down if you've already spoken? Thank you, Councillor Warboys.
Yes, I think it's just a slide previously. It's about the proposed changes in dimensions of the houses. That just affects the replacement houses. I think the 3-4 bedroom houses go down from, was it 120?
No, it's all the houses go down in size.
All the houses go down in
all
size.
All houses within this proposal. So the ones that Alex highlighted. Sorry, I've interrupted. Alex, you explain it.
Yes,
you show the highlights picture, Alex, to help.
Yes, the highlights picture here are the 4 dwellings.
No, the one where you showed the layout.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'll go back to the layout. Okay, yes. So this is the layout as was approved. So here are the dwellings affected as previously approved, and they are proposed to be replaced with the designs as shown in the remainder of the presentation. Is that?
They're all a lot smaller than what was shown originally.
Yes.
The floor areas are slightly smaller, as I've set out there. Yes. That's.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that's sorry. I had
the same questions myself at briefing, so.
Yeah, and just to Karen, I don't know if you could give me the information. How does this relate to sort of minimum sizes that are recommended for, say, a 4-bedroomed house?
Well, in terms of nationally described space standards, I mean, we don't have a policy presently. So in terms of insisting on this from a planning perspective, I think it would be very difficult, particularly for the market dwellings, and we are only looking at market dwellings here. The space standards were previously considered by strategic housing from the host application for the affordable dwellings, and that was considered acceptable. But yes, I mean, we don't have a policy, which is the difficulty, really. I would summarise, really.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Warboys. And now Councillor Mansell, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've been playing a sort of spot the difference on the slides that we got in our papers. And I would just like to query, I think it's plot number 103, which on our papers in slide 11 is not highlighted in white as one of the ones that's changing, but it looks very different to the plot 103 on my paper version of slide 10. So I'd just like to query, is that a change, or or what has happened because the house on the approved layout doesn't look like what we've got on the proposed layout, but it's not highlighted as a change, if that makes sense.
Sorry, plot 103.
Plot number 103 is the lower line you've outlined in red.
Yes.
The bottom left-hand side of it, there's a plot there which looks like it sort of faces west.
Yes.
But that's different. That's not the same as the one I've got in my papers. That's bizarre. On my paper version of slide 11, that house is facing south. Oh, sorry, that's the approved layout. Sorry, the approved layout is facing west. On the proposed layout, it looks like it's facing south. It's sort of rotated by 90 degrees.
Okay. Yes, I can. Yes. Yeah, well, perhaps that's a question for the applicant. That isn't part of the proposal, I'm aware.
Perhaps you'd like to save that one, Councillor Mansell, for the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah, we definitely need to question that. Yes, you're right.
The applicant is here for me to question.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'll hold that one for you, Sarah. Yeah, Councillor Mansell. Right. No further questions. In fact, we don't have a representative from the parish council, objector or supporter, so the applicant can now speak, if you would please. Andrew Owen, you have 3 minutes and our officer will tell us when you're near the 3 minute. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, and good morning, councillors. Yes, my name is Andrew Owen and I'm the planning manager for Crest Nicholson, responsible for the delivery of this application. I had written down quite a few bits to say, but I think the officer's report and presentation have covered the majority of it. Just to take you through the query from the ward councillor there, we do have a separate full application for an additional unit, which is why that plot sits under a separate application, but it's why that has changed. So just to clarify that point, that's subject to a separate application, which is before the council. In terms of this application, before the coronavirus pandemic, we'd had a lot of customers come to site and looking for smaller 3 and 4 bedroom units. I think everyone spent a lot of time in their homes during the pandemic and have sort of reviewed their situations. And thanks to the stamp duty holiday and Help to Buy, and Crest also has its own shared ownership Home Reach product at the moment, we've looked to provide a better mix of properties reflective of the market demand. So it enables people who possibly couldn't have afforded a 3-bed before to stretch to an entry-level 3-bed. That provides them some flexible space for home working and things which are obviously more important at the moment. So ultimately, that's the drive behind the changes before you today. The material palettes and all of the high quality design has all been retained, and we've got about 80 of the 240 homes occupied at the moment. So the site's coming along well. Extensive open space with suds and wildflower meadows. We've got bat and bird boxes and hedgehog friendly fencing to properties. All of those main principles of the scheme are retained as well. So on parking, again, the provisions compliant with highways policy. So there are no objections from any statutory consultees, and obviously hope that you vote to approve the application in accordance with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you for that. I will come to the members. I do have a couple of questions myself. So it's just cost that you're reducing the size of the properties?
It's to provide a product mix that enables people to afford a small 3 rather than.
Yeah, and my other question is, I've almost forgotten it. Cost and size. Oh yes. Do these properties allow for a proper double bed, side tables, and perhaps a wardrobe? Because often we go and we see them and they've got 3/4 beds, and you can't get a cat in there.
Yeah, just to confirm, so they are actually all National Space Standards compliant units. So yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stringer, sorry, I might have jumped your question.
Not at all, not at all. Could I just ask a question? Do we have any Romsey, Keswicks, Redgraves, Eveshams, Dorkings, Winkfields, Cheshams, Lancings or Marlboroughs already on this site?
No.
Right, so these are all new,
yes.
well, new, yeah, they're elsewhere. You said you've kept the high quality design remains in this, so can you show me where you've got some double hip roofs in here?
In terms of the images before you, I suppose it's on an individual house type perspective. The styles have changed as they're smaller properties. They probably haven't got the exact same features as before, but looking at still using the same materials and you know, retaining the same character that we had previously.
No, that's not correct, is it?
Hang on, let's not debate it, Andrew. Councillor Stringer, we'll debate that, you and I. Andrew Owen has answered the question. Do you have another question, Councillor Stringer?
No, thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Councillor Stringer. Councillor Humphreys?
Madam Chair, thank you. Mr. Owen, just to get my head around it, I think I understand it. They're smaller, so it's a cost reduction. It's cost reduction due to build it. But can you confirm that these houses are now cheaper than the houses they're replacing to buy?
Yes, it's driven by the purchase price, essentially. So it's ensuring that they are cheaper, more affordable to private buyers, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much indeed. So we now come, thank you very much, Mr. Owen. If you'd like to remain and listen to the debate, we now come to the ward members. And so we can ask Councillor Mansell. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I remember the debate about the original design and layout for this development. And I do remember it when it got deferred, it came back because we got it altered to make it, you know, I think a lot of time was spent on getting the layout acceptable back in 2018. So in some respects, it's a bit disappointing now that we've got this application for some changes to the housing mix. I'd like to thank Mr. Owen for his explanation, because I wasn't quite sure of the reason of why this application was coming in. But I do find it a little bit disappointing that in our papers, we only seem to have consultation responses from the original application in 2018. Notable, there's a lack of a recent response from the strategic housing team. For the original proposal, their comments suggested, okay, they didn't sort of recommend a holding objection or anything, but they did intimate that there was more need for 2- and 3-bedroomed market houses rather than larger houses. And here we are with a proposal which seeks to reduce the number of 2-bedroom houses. So I couldn't really support it. But having listened to Mr. Owen's explanation as to why it's being done, my views are tempered slightly. And if we're making the houses more affordable, then maybe that's a good thing. I was a little bit baffled, I think. But I think having his explanation has been quite helpful. So I can't really see any reason to change this. You know, there are some changes of design of the house, but you know, I'm not sure how significant a design change that would be. It's quite difficult to visualise. But thank you for allowing me to make my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Mansell. And now, Councillor Geek, if you would like to. Oh, wait. Yeah, we'll do them. I'll do them afterwards. Councillor Geek, if you'd like to make comment, and then we can ask the members if they want to ask you both any questions.
Thank you, Chair. Could I first say I'm very grateful for the clarifications that you and the Vice Chair suggested to be added to the report. They've been very helpful in understanding the application. Now, although there is an acknowledged need for smaller houses in Elmswell and in Mid Suffolk generally. We all know that, all the evidence shows that. It's there in your report on pages 362 to 364. There is a substantial need locally and district-wide for specifically 2-bedroom houses, as Councillor Mansell has said. So smaller, we don't in this country go purely on a square meterage basis. We tend to think about it in terms of the numbers of bedrooms, and there is still a substantial need for 2-bedroom houses. So as Councillor Mansell has said, although this is a minor change, it's a minor change away from the 2-bed houses, and that change should in theory be resisted. But I would agree with Councillor Mansell if in the point that if the houses are genuinely more affordable, perhaps that goes some way towards mitigating the problem. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Geek. Now, can we just ask Alex one quick one? How many 2-bedroom properties are there on that site, which might just help us? I think that is.
Yes, indeed, Chair. Yes, there were 60 approved, and because of the removal of the 2, there would in effect be 58 remaining.
So there are 58 2-bedroom houses. Thank you. So do members have questions for Councillor Geek and Councillor Mansell? And I'm sure they can answer them. Councillor Stringer, have you got your hand up for questions?
Sorry,
Nope.
Chair, that's a legacy hand.
Oh, a legacy hand, right. And any further questions? I think we've sorted that one out. Thank you very much indeed, the ward members. So we now open to debate, and I will come first to Councillor Caston, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yes, I like this. The developers looked into what the people want to buy, and they've made a decision to change the style of those houses as a response to that. We need I'm not too worried about specifications changing within those houses, because the way I see it, people have a choice to buy a house with different specifications, but they can't choose to buy a house they can't afford. So I think this is going exactly the direction that I'd quite like it to. We've got more houses, the houses will fall into a group that's affordable to more people, and it makes perfect sense to me. 58 2-beds already on this development. It is nice to see the 2 beds, but I'm more than happy to have these houses, generally 39 houses that are more affordable and more available to people. So that's where I am on it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Caston. Councillor Gould.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is not a hugely significant change. Obviously, it's good that houses are made more affordable, but the economics of this are probably of benefit to the builder as well as to the purchaser. A personal point is I don't like the change in design. For me, the new designs are slightly too redolent of 1970s, 1980s style houses, which personally I don't regard as a high point in housing design. I did prefer the older designs, but there you have it. If we're trading that against the benefit of more affordable houses, then so be it. So I don't really have a problem with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gould. Councillor Humphreys.
Chair, thank you. Yeah, as Councillor Mansell said, this application, the original one, was approved, and part of that was on the layout and the appearance of the actual estate itself. And we thought it was a good design and a good layout, and that's why we went for it, or partly. I'm glad Mr. Owen explained the reasons why they've changed or they're proposing a change. And again, this is all market-led, as is the requirement for 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom houses, and the gradual move that people don't want 2-bedroom houses anymore. They want this space. So it's all market-driven, and I get that as well, which is the whole reason why this is in front of us, I guess. The only planning thing that I think this could fall down on, if you were that way minded, is in terms of appearance. So the street scene's slightly changed. And I think if we can put it up, slide 11 or 13, I think it is, just to illustrate what I'm trying to say. Okay, the one below that. And go down one more. One more. Sorry about this. We will get there. Keep going. It's the one where you see the three aspects. Yeah, one more down. That's it. And the one below it. So you can see the centre section there with the grouping of the smaller houses where you've got the 2.8 metre gap. That appearance is, to some, I guess, unacceptable. It's not as good as the appearance before it. So it's all in the eyes of the beholder, I suppose, whether you accept that as an acceptable appearance or not. But it does make a definite change to the street scene, and some people might not like that. But I don't think that's a reason to refuse this. So I get it. I understand the reasons why. It's nice to see that people are getting what they want for a change, and that prices of housing is coming down as well. So again, apart from the appearance, I can't see any real problem with it.
Thank you for that, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Mellon.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, this seems to be a reasonable adjustment to the plan based on, what houses they're able to sell. I do regret the sort of slight loss of the features that we're getting. The new design isn't as good as the previous, as other councillors have said, but at the moment I'm minded to be in favour of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mellon. Councillor Norris.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I understand Councillor Humphrey's comments regarding the street scene. It does present a block, two blocks of buildings very close together with only a very small sort of gap between them. But overall, I'm very grateful for the developer representative explanation. I thought that was very helpful, and I will be supporting this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norris. Councillor Warboys.
Well, yes, I think I just got to echo. I think there is a loss in some of the more interesting design elements. I think the street scene is a little bit more varied, so there's pluses and minuses. I realise I've been informed, got no policy on it. I'm a bit concerned about the reduction in space. I realise it is to make them more affordable, but we are getting close to sort of minimum nationally described space standards, and especially at this time when people seem to be spending more time in their homes. So that is a concern. I think we need to be wary of it.
Thank you, Councillor Warboys. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Chair. I take a different tack to many of you. We've had a load of debate at the moment in response to a white paper about how we design things to be beautiful and how we should stick to good design codes and not water down and bland out design. This is a perfect example of this. Also, I would like assurance, because I've done some calculations myself. The Redgrave house, I believe, is below the national standard for housing for a 3-bedroom house. I've got the table in front of me. It should be 84 square metres to have 4 people in it. So you'll have a 3-bed house. You can't have any more than 4 people living in it. I make it 83.89 square metres, including the walls. So if you can live in the middle of a wall, I don't know, but I think that dwelling is actually below the national safety, the standard of size. These living rooms that are proposing here are 10 feet 2 inches wide. That's tiny for a living room. Once you put a sofa in it, and possibly a television, you probably need to nail it to the wall, because you won't put another cabinet in and then walk around it. So I think that I have real problems with this. We should accept that if it was just about approvable last time, why should we water down design? I get the point, people want them more affordable. There's a way to make them more affordable. Don't make them semi-detached, make them terraced. It's quite simple. You can then keep the space and keep the cost down. So frankly, I will be refusing this application and stick by our own Suffolk Design Code and the National Space Standards. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stringer. Well, I must admit, when I looked at these, as acknowledged by Councillor Geek, I did ask for the sizes of these properties to be compared. And it comes as no surprise that they are smaller. The problem we have, Councillor Stringer, and I support what you say, is that we don't have a policy at the moment for whereby we have to have the standards. Like Councillor Gould, I think it is going back to a 60s design. I think if I'm misquoting you, I apologise, but I think that was mentioned. And I think it is a shame that, you know, much of the, I hate this word, the beautification of it has been watered down a little bit. But I also hear everybody else's points of view is that properties need to be affordable, and I have to be mindful that there are people that do want to aspire to these properties. And so I will be supporting it, but it is with a heavy heart, because I think to come back when we did have a much better view for the street scenes, but it would be difficult to say no. So anyway, that's where I am at it. So if anybody wants to make a proposal, I'll look in the hands up situation to see Councillor Caston. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose that we approve this. I don't agree with the other councillors in so much as we want everything to be of the highest standard that we can possibly do, because I think with supply and demand, you'll end up with houses that are more desirable. They'll go up in money. My first house was a small house. You could barely swing a cat in the kitchen. A lot of people would have said, oh, that would have been a much better house with a larger kitchen. But a lot of people wouldn't pay more money for it because it had a small kitchen. I could afford it. It worked well for me. I think, yes, we should build nice houses to the absolute the best design we possibly can, but I think we've also got a really big need for houses that aren't everyone's cup of tea but are affordable to people that can't afford to live on a road where everything's set out so it looks incredibly beautiful for them when they go to work, because we do need to get these houses right. And there are those houses, there's plenty of those houses in Suffolk. We can we've now got houses that people can afford, people can go into. Someone like me could have gone into a 3-bedroom house and I wouldn't have had to change houses when I had children. So I think it does make a lot of sense to me. I don't really see the other councillors' points for that. But to cut a long story short, yes, I would like to propose approval of this application.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Humphreys.
Good. Madam Chair, thank you. I'd like to second that proposal, and same opinion really. They're not the most beautiful houses in the world, but it's market led. That's what people want. That's what people have asked for. That's what people are getting. And I would rather see what I've just seen than rows of terraced houses that are slightly larger. I'm sorry, but we've moved on. So I do second that proposal.
Thank you for that, Councillor Humphreys. I have a proposer and a seconder, so anybody wishing to speak to the motion, I saw Councillor Stringer's hand there, so if you'd like to speak, thank you.
Yeah, I'll be voting against this because there's that Chinese curse. Be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. I'm absolutely certain people are not clamouring to have narrow living spaces to live in. They want to live in a suitable space. They're not clamouring to have buildings under the national standard. I think that's an absolute disgrace, and I will vote against that every time. It is poor design if you can't make something livable and attractive. It's not bowing to the market. It's actually designing something properly. GP1 says that materials and finishes should be traditional and compatible with traditional materials and finishes and respect architectural styles. The watered down design we have here does not do that. So I'll be voting against this.
Thank you, Councillor Stringer. Councillor Warboys?
Yeah, I think I must second Councillor Stringer's remarks. I think, first of all, aesthetically, there's nothing wrong with terraced houses. In fact, some of the most contemporary buildings are, in fact, terraced buildings, and it adds variety. I think people do deserve proper living spaces, and I think it is quite possible to build efficiently and economically adequate living spaces to people. So I'm concerned about those, the quality of that coming down. There is no reasons why people should have kitchens where you can't swing a cat. People should have properly designed kitchens that they can work in.
Thank you, Councillor Warboys. Anyone else wishing to speak to the motion? No. Thank you very much, everybody. In that case, can I ask Robert to go for a roll call on the vote, please? And are we clear the recommendation, which is, well, I've got the paper copy of 323. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So if members could please respond with for, against or abstain. So Councillor James Carston.
For.
Councillor Peter Gould.
For.
Councillor Cathy Guthrie.
For.
Councillor Barry Humphreys.
For.
Councillor Andrew Mellon.
For.
Councillor Mike Norris.
For.
Councillor Roland Warboys.
Against.
And Councillor Andrew Stringer.
Against.
Thank you, Chair. I make that by 6 votes to 2. The motion is carried. Mr. Dupre, do you confirm?
I agree. 6 votes to 2 carried.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. So that concludes the meeting. There's no site inspections to report. Am I correct on that, Robert?
That's correct, Chair.
So in that case, I'll now formally close the meeting. I should be remaining because I do want a quick word with one or two of the officers. But thank you very much for everybody for their input. Thank you.